All right, so today we're going to talk about spooky good technical SEO for e-commerce. So a little bit about me. I'm currently the head of SEO and social media optimization at Deluxe Corporation, and I'm also the director of PR communications and social media here at MN Search. So one of the benefits that I have of actually working in-house is that I get to do what I want to do, as opposed to having to try to convince a client to do or spend what they need to spend to get me to do it for them. So I lived in the agency life for many, many years before working in-house, and it can be a lot of fun. Get to fool around a little bit. So I'm going to share with you some of the things that we've been experimenting with and some of the things we've been doing, and I hope that you get a lot out of it. So moving on, today we're going to discuss technical SEO tips for semantic search. I didn't realize how high this thing is. I look up, I'm going to straighten my neck. Navigation and canonical tips, SEO tips for your CMS, and SEO tips for your web servers. Hopefully we'll get all this done in 15 minutes, maybe a couple more over. Again, this is not an exhaustive list of technical recommendations, but just something to get you started. Follow me at Adam Dince. I think I have it on the previous slide here, I forgot to mention that. I've just shared a link on my Twitter account that links you to this presentation, so definitely check it out, keep it, use it, and reach out and ask questions anytime you have them. So let's get started. Before we even get into the details, just know that technical SEO is your table stakes. You've got to do it. You've got to do it well, especially on e-commerce sites. There's so many problems that are inherent with out-of-the-box e-commerce software. We run ATG, we run Hybris, we run Fred Hopper facet navigation. I don't know if any of that's ringing bells with folks here, but they come with ugly URLs and all kinds of problems. So if you really want to succeed in your organic search strategy, it's really, really important that you're able to sell this. So whether you're in-house or an agency, you've got to be able to sell your technical SEO to your stakeholders and get the funding for it. So that will be my challenge to you today is get awesome at it, because it's going to get more and more important, especially as we go through some of these things. So let's talk a little bit about semantic search. So I don't want to define it or anything, but I want to show you some examples. You know, Google, Bing, Yahoo are all moving quickly towards this thing called semantic search. And so there are a lot of things you can do technically to kind of help get you into a good position. So let's look at a couple examples of what semantic search looks like now. So who is Barack Obama's wife? Well, in the old days of search, meaning like a year ago, you would type that in and you would get a bunch of links to pages that you could read about her, right? Now you've got information about it's Michelle Obama, what year she was, what year they were married. You get a little bio information, her height, right? You don't have to click on anything. You just have to click on Wikipedia to get that kind of information. What's a smartphone? Well, Google tells you what a smartphone is, right? And there's this really awkward chart, which surprised me. I actually clicked to see where that chart was coming from, and it's from Google Books, which was pulling the frequency of times smartphone was used in books, and it was like 0.8%, some weird number. I'm like, why is that even relevant? Why wouldn't you have a picture of a smartphone? But they're getting there, right? And who invented the internet? So Google says it's not Al Gore. Big surprise, right? So we have a little image of Vince Cerf, and you have his title, but then you also have people also search for. So Google knows that somehow correlated to Vic or some other people associated with creating the internet. Let's not forget about Bing. Even Bing knows who Matt Cutts is, and not just Matt Cutts, but who's similar to Matt Cutts. So Bing is getting into the semantic search side of things too. Now, in terms of e-commerce, Google search engines are lacking still in this area. So a quick, anyone from Best Buy here? Is Andrew here? Okay, good. I just Googled how much is an iPad at Best Buy, and the first thing I get are these crappy PLA results that are from Staples in the Apple Store. Nothing about Best Buy, the first 4 results. Google wants to return relevant results, right? So I want to know about Best Buy, and the first 4 things are not Best Buy. And then the 2 results about Best Buy don't tell me what the price is. So now I've got to click around and try and figure out what that what that is. So Google hasn't quite got there, search engines haven't quite got there, but they're getting there, and it is coming. I did this without Photoshop, so you'll have to forgive me. That's what you can do with Paint and PowerPoint. So here are a few tips, and we're just going to cover these 4 things on how to get your site ready for the semantic search world. So the first thing is Schema Market. Who here hasn't heard of Schema? Awesome. So I'm not going to spend too long talking about that. There's a great tool if you haven't seen it. It's called schemacreator.org. It allows you to start entering your content into fields, and it creates the code for you. And you can select from products, people, recipes, events, different things like that. So now your IT team's probably not going to be able to copy this code and paste it directly into their HTML, but it does get them started so they don't have to start coding from scratch, and they're going to thank you for helping make their life a little bit easier. Now once IT says, hey, guess what, it's been implemented, or your client says it's been implemented, you want to make sure you check it. So Google Webmaster Tools provides this really cool tool called it's a rich snippet tester, essentially, where it'll show you all the data that it's pulling from your code. So here on Deluxe, you can see that we've implemented some of this structured data around our products, and Google says, okay, now you know that it was done as you asked. So one thing to keep in mind, a lot of us try and do schema markup because we want to see the really cool search results come back with the picture next to it, or the stars, or other stuff. If you're not seeing it, don't worry. It doesn't mean that Google's not seeing it. It doesn't mean that Bing's not seeing it. It just means you're not being rewarded with a rich snippet. But that's fine. Just know Google's still seeing the data. The search engines are still seeing the data. So don't give up. All right, next. This one may be a new concept for you. It's another piece of schema code. Would someone tell my mom I'll call her after? That's a joke, all right? Darn, thought this is going to be funnier. This helps with disambiguation. So when Semantic Search first came out, the example given in the Wall Street Journal, not when it first came out, but when it got public attention, when Google started talking about it more, there was this thing about Jaguar. If someone Googles the term Jaguar, are they talking about the animal, the team, the operating system, right? So what are we talking about here? So we want to help disambiguate the things that we're talking about on our e-commerce sites. So this site right here is selling a Miami Dolphins jacket. And so if they want to help Google better understand that they're talking about the sports team Miami Dolphins, as opposed to maybe Flipper, the dolphin that lives in Miami, or some other kind of Miami dolphin, right? You can use this item prop code here, which you can get on schema.org and read all about it. Plop it in your code and point it to the Wikipedia page that talks about Miami Dolphins. So now Google has an idea of what you're talking about. So think about, as you're selling things, if you have a mug, is that a face? Is it a glass? What is it, right? So you can help Google better understand what those things are. Co-referencing. So this one's a little bit more in your face, sort of. So co-referencing is very similar to the same as, except what you do here is you can provide a link within your text. So if you say Miami Dolphins in your product description, which by the way they don't, it's not my site, just want to call that out. You can link to this Wikipedia page from your content with Miami Dolphins as a link text, and Google goes to this page and goes, oh, okay, so sports team, got it. So again, it helps disambiguate for Google and more clearly understand what you're really trying to get at in terms of what you're describing. This one's kind of fun for me, and this is kind of futuristic and out there, so just giving you that heads up to get started. But we all know what this is, right? This is we're sharing some content on Facebook. How many times have you shared something and you see, whether you're on a product page or a category page, it's the title, the clickable link is the home page, right? Welcome to Best Buy or welcome to Target, but you're not on the welcome page, you're on a product page. And the description might even say something like, place description here. So stuff hasn't been well thought out. Well, that's really important because there's actually a lot of information in this post, right? The share. You have the product, the website, product URL, and a little description that goes along. Twitter's got these really cool things called Twitter cards, right? So instead of your standard tweet where you have your 140 characters or whatever and a link and some hashtags or an mention, now you also get a title of your article, a picture, and a description, right? Website, Twitter account, lots of information. Last one, rich pins. Rich pins are great. So with Pinterest now, if you're sharing products on Pinterest, you get to include price and other things about your product that you normally couldn't before. So why is this relevant to SEO? Well, Google actually can crawl this content and they can see all of it. And so if you're doing these things, if you're posting these rich pins and Twitter cards and Facebook posts, Google's going to get to know a lot more about your products. And it's all linking to your website. It helps associate those products, those entities, with you. Or if you're writing an article, and that's my website, and you've got a bagsandbowsonline.com, which is one of our brands, and you have our deluxe.com site. How are all these things connected? Google's trying to figure those things out. Bing is too, they're a little bit slower. Sorry, James, I saw you with the Bing shirt on. Not picking on you or anything. Anyway, so how do you implement it? How do you get these things to show up? So within the head of your tag, your head of your HTML tags, you have your Google code, just basic stuff for Google, right? We all know publisher and authorship. So make sure you get that in your head, validate it, make sure it works. Next, your Facebook Open Graph protocol. This is the basic stuff, right? So this will get your title, your description, the image, yada, yada, yada. But there's also another cool thing here called Facebook Open Graph product protocol. So now you can give Facebook information about your products. But this also goes in your code on your page. So Google sees all that. Remember, Googlebot, Bingbot, they read code. So they're going to see all of this. Twitter cards. Here's an example of a product-based Twitter card. We're working on getting our product-based Twitter cards implemented now, so I can't show an example of ours. But again, there you go. That's what it is. Twitter reads that, and it will help get those Twitter cards established. Now, the cool thing about the Facebook Open Graph tags is once you have those implemented, that's what Pinterest also uses for their rich pins. So you only have to include Facebook Open Graph tags to get the Pinterest stuff to work. In terms of Twitter, your stuff, you have to include the Twitter stuff. It doesn't use any other social networks code. So that's that. Done with semantic search, sort of. Navigational and canonical tips. So here's a really exciting page about our high security business checks. That was sarcastic. And we have breadcrumb navigation. Make sure you have breadcrumb navigation. I know that may sound like a gimme, but really, it's really important. Helps Google understand how your pages are relating to each other, even have great keywords to describe those pages. Internal linking is so important to your SEO, and Google understands what's important to you by how you link internally. Now, if you're a tech rock star and you want to rock it, what you do is you grab this RDFA code that you can wrap your breadcrumb navigation in, and now you can tell Google, and I don't think I have a little blinker on here, but laser, but you can tell Google a little bit more about your breadcrumb navigation. You can say, hey Google, Bing, this is our breadcrumb. Sometimes they have a hard time, search engines have a hard time understanding if it's a breadcrumb, if it's your top nav, your left nav. So again, this helps disambiguate that. And there's the instruction on Google on how to get that implemented. Highly recommend you do it. It will help improve your relevance. Pagination, real exciting stuff. So you get to this page again. You've got 20 pages of high security checks. Who wants to scroll through that? Well, I guess people do because they do it all the time. But Google doesn't. Google only has a certain amount of time it's going to spend on your site crawling it. Bing too, James. And so you want to make sure that you're making the crawls as efficient as possible. You don't want them crawling 100 pages of your one line of product and then leaving. So here's what you do. First tip, if you can, if you have a show all page, make that your canonical page, right? So pages 1, 2, 3, 4 through 20 or however many you have, reference that show all page as your canonical page. So Google will still crawl those other pages, potentially, but it'll reference the show all as the primary page, the one that you've wanted. Next, you've got your pagination, right? So if you can't implement that as a show all, if it's not something you want to do, what you can do then is just implement what's known as rel next, rel prev. You can Google that and get the information on how to implement it. But what Google knows and Bing knows at that point in time is, how are these pages organized? What's the next logical order? Oh, this is page 4 of 3, and so on and so forth. So that's really going to help improve your crawl. And you also don't want page 4 returning in a search result, right? You want your page 1, because a lot of us list our most important best-selling products first, and the worst ones are lower down in lower pages. So you don't want 4 or 5 showing up. Last but not least on this, maybe it's last but not least, but so canonicals are just a recommendation to Google and Bing. They don't have to take them. They don't have to say, oh, well, Webmaster tells me that this is the primary URL, so I'm going to use it. I've seen so many instances where Google and Bing ignore it, especially Bing. Bing ignores it a lot more than Google does. So if you go into your Google and Bing Webmaster tools, you can help define your URL, your parameters a little bit better. So if you've got display ads that are appending parameters, and when I say display ads, internal display ads, appending parameters to URLs, or as you're clicking through stuff throughout your site, some analytics folks like to append different parameters based on where you came from. All that creates a duplicate content problem. And if Google's not recognizing your canonical tag, or Bing isn't, you could still have duplicate content. So through here, the Webmaster tools, you can tell Google and Bing which parameters to ignore and not consider as changing content on the page. It'll really help you with that duplicate content issue. CMS and server tips, going to go through these real quick. Just know that, again, I've shared this at Adam Dince. You can get the details on it, but just going to run through the bullets. So number one, you want to have granular page title control. The worst thing is when your CMS automatically pulls your title from your H1 or from your left navigation. Make sure you have control over that. Same with your meta description. You want to have automated XML sitemaps. If you don't, it's going to take so much time to use your Screaming Frog or whatever and get it to your IT team. Most CMSs or platforms come with some sort of automated XML feed. Then you can just make sure that it's accurate. Image alt tag control. I don't have to go into that one. Y'all know what that is. Image file naming control. This is a big one. I was working with the United States Army, their recruiting website, and we had uploaded about 3,000 images to this new CMS that we had named and spent a lot of time naming, and we uploaded it. It automatically renamed all the image files, like image 9821941. It's like, oh my God, are you kidding me? And we could never get that fixed. So do your best to make sure you keep your image file names. That's really important for SEO. Content-rich category pages, not just products. You want to have good content for your folks. And content entry fields. So you want to make sure that you've got the ability to, if you're going to put canonicals or if you're going to want to update your H1 or any of those other tags, you don't want to have to bother IT every time. So if you can get that into your CMS, you're way ahead of the game. All right, social sharing buttons. We talked about why that's important with semantic search. Make it easy, get your products and stuff out there. Last but not least, server tips. Now we're done. Human readable URLs, right? Avoid this ugly mess up here. We all know, we've all seen that. Site speed, make sure your site loads fast. The better your site loads and your server is, the better you'll do in search results and your rankings. Pick an HTTPS versus HTTP. Don't let your site render under both. Pick a canonical version, so dub versus non-dub. Okay, there we go. If it renders under both, that's a duplicate content issue, right? You want to make sure you don't have that. Robots.txt file, you want to make sure that you point engines to your XML sitemaps from your robots.txt file. If you're on my site, adamdince.com, and you check out my robots file, that's how I have mine set up, so you can see an example of how that works. Also, you want to block on-site search results because that can create a lot of duplicate content, unnecessary content. Today's final thought. Thanks, Jerry. Boy, following Jeff is rough. I hope this presentation communicates the fact that SEO isn't dead, or at least helps communicate that. There's been a lot of messages out there and blog posts for people who, oh, SEO is dead, social media is the new SEO. There's no such thing as SEO, it's all about content. And that's half truth. Social content's all very important to SEO. But this is SEO. When I started in SEO, it was all about the tech and really building sites right. So get well versed in it, get familiar with it, and your SEO will be alive for as long as Google and Bing and Yahoo and all those other engines out there live. Thank you.